Ep97, working with your copy/line editor. You hire an editor because they're an expert in something that you're not. And as a second set of eyes to make sure that your manuscript is as clean as you can make it. And clean, copy or line editor is looking at grammar, spelling, capitalization, those kinds of things, the technical side of writing. They should also check something for like continuity. One editor described my capitalization rules as fluid. So your copy editor will make sure that those are aligned, that you capitalize things the same way for a book, and hopefully you keep the same editor for an entire series to make sure that all of that stuff is consistent. And no matter how good your copy editor is, typos will still get through. So I would still advocate that you have proofreaders check your manuscript once the copy or line editor is done with it. And what this looks like is you send your manuscript. I prefer Word, and Google Docs also do a similar thing where you can track changes. You see the changes, you see the recommendations, and everything is a recommendation. You are the final arbiter of what you accept. So with Word and track changes, you go through and accept or reject each change and then move on. If it's not your area, initially I got thousands and thousands of corrections on commas. Okay, I looked at them. All right, I figured out the rules, and now I might get a few hundred commas is all. And sometimes the editor puts them where I don't think they're needed, and I doubt many people will stop reading your manuscript for commas unless it's like dialogue tags or things where it's very obvious. Before you say she said, he said, you need a comma at the end of that, not a period, and then he said, she said. That would be a little bit incorrect. But once again, what will keep your readers from stop reading? What will keep your readers from stopping reading? A copy editor makes sure it's nice and clean. Doesn't give them a technical excuse to get out of your novel. You are still responsible for the story and the plot and developing the characters and doing all that. But what the copy editor will do is help you make sure that you are consistent in your verb, that if you do third person past, that you keep it in the past tense throughout. Dialogue, you may switch into present tense, but those little things, because sometimes I'll say was, and then all of a sudden I'll throw in an is. And yes, copy editors catch that and they save you from doing that to yourself. Narrative style is one thing, and narrative style is you want consistency, and your editor should be able to point that out. Dialogue is something completely different. Take a good look at that, because some editors may get into that mode of editing, and then when they get to dialogue, they'll edit the same way and make everybody speak in perfect English, and that is folly. People don't speak that way. But if you try to use regional dialect, sometimes that is very difficult to read, and once again, you'll lose readers if you do too much of it. A little bit of it, a little nuance to say this is this character, and that describes and that defines that character. All good stuff. Just tell your editor ahead of time, hey, I'd like to leave these little things in there, like oi. Okay, hey, that's how he starts talking each almost every sentence, but not every sentence, but like maybe once in a major engagement, oi, and then okay, just tell your editor I'd like to keep that in. That's his quirk. Without overusing it. Don't confuse voice, because I've had people say, but my editor took my voice. No, your voice. This is the narrative text, and in your narrative, you're kind of writing like a moron. You're changing tenses. You're changing the way you had it first person in this paragraph, and then your third person. That's not voice. Those are errors, and you need to fix those and be consistent throughout the narrative. Dialogue, once again, is different. And this is where if an editor changes your dialogue too much, they are really changing the voice of the character. And that is something that you really want to be very careful about what you expect. But once again, set those expectations up front with your editor. The dialogue, I really want the dialogue to stay this way. And then they'll check and just make sure that the dialogue is consistent that way. Generally, they won't check the overall story, like if the story works or doesn't work. They may say that, but when they're looking through for the technical details, they may not catch the overall story or the plot, or missing subplots that start and just leave you hanging. So that's where proofreaders can come in and say, oh, hey, there's some, and have questions. And that's way cool, because then they can answer the questions that the copy and the line editor did not answer. Keep in mind, the editor works for you. So if you don't want some things, hey, no problem, accept, reject. That's a great thing about Word. But a better relationship is where the editor works with you. Hey, here's how I would like it, and let them work that way. But if they're working at odds, saying, no, you have to, then that may not be a great relationship, especially once you've learned and your grammar is consistent and they're trying to change things that don't need to be changed. This is it's a razor's edge that you have to walk. You have to know what is okay to change, and then what doesn't need to be changed. It's your book. At the end of the day, it is your book, and you make the decisions. Just make smart ones. All right, people, that's working with a copy or line editor. Do what's right, and talk to you later.